I've got a couple of watershedders with me tonight. Now introduce yourself, guys. Tell us your involvement.
Steve Cannon, President of Watershed.
Jessica Harrison, member of Watershed.
Now guys, with this whole desal thing and might I say many other government ventures, we've seen a few interesting highlights, shall we say, from the government, because normally when the government does stuff, it's our represented, elected members and all that. They're meant to put out things and say, this is what we're doing, communicate with us, make sure they're doing what the community wants and go about it. That's our democracy, that's what we love. What have you got to say about that this week?
Well, Russ, one of the big problems for us with the desalination proposal by the Victorian government, the Brumby government, is that it's being built as a PPP. Western Australia and Queensland built theirs as government owned. When it's a PPP, there's a cloud of secrecy over the whole project. Everything's commercial in confidence. So far, all we know is it's supposed to cost $3.1 billion, but we've never seen a breakdown of that cost, and we never will. It's commercial in confidence. So we don't know whether that covers the cost of just the plant. What about the pipeline? What about the power supply? So we don't know. The Auditor General cast doubt on that figure, and we never will know the actual cost because it'll be hidden behind the PPP.
Now explain a little bit about the PPP. A lot of people mightn't realise what the initials stand for in that.
Okay, PPP is short for Public-Private Partnership. For example, CityLink was built as a public-private partnership. And what do we find with CityLink? If they want to make changes to improve the traffic flow around Melbourne, which is in the interests of Melburnians, then we find there are clauses in the contract that compensation has to be paid to CityLink. And that's what characterises PPPs. They're one-sided contracts. They're built around guaranteeing a substantial profit to the Public-Private Partnership Consortium and the ultimate owners.
I could add in, it means really, private profits, public pay.
You'll pay, that's right.
Now, Watershed, and particularly you, my dear lady, have been investigating some of these private companies and stuff like that, haven't you?
Well, Veolia is one of the two bidders for the desal plant, and it's the biggest water company in the world. And we've recently found out, for example, that Paris has rejected its offer to run their water supply. We're finding out more and more as we go about the whole process of privatising of water, and the fact that if a private company is involved, you never really know what's going on until, for example, the water comes out of your tap brown and you start to wonder what's going on.
Well, I tell you what, the whole water issue I find amazing. Being a local down here, I got my recent water bill, and although it's about $350, I've only used $47 of water. So it's amazing the way these companies and that are working.
Yeah.
I've even heard stories that in other countries water is a sellable commodity, even in third world countries where it's hard to come by.
Well, there have been riots where people have found that their water has been privatised, and even tank water they've attempted to privatise. They gave up on that idea because of the action by the locals in Bolivia. But it really is going to be the case that people in Melbourne are going to be paying, whether they want to or not. In the standing charge, you're going to be paying for the water from this desalination plant. So I suppose, and that's into the future, your children as well and their children will end up paying if this little deal that Stephen just mentioned, the PPP, goes ahead.
Well, but a lot of people would say, now hang on, this is Australia. This stuff doesn't happen here. Stephen, come on, it's Australia. What's...
Well, Russell, it is happening. Going back to the cost issue, the government proposed a rise of $500 a year, basically a doubling of water bills. That's what they wanted, and that obviously goes back to covering the costs of building the desalination plant. The Essential Services Commission only allowed a 60% rise. That's over the next 4 years. But those costs, those extra costs that haven't been accepted by the Essential Services Commission, they'll still have to be recovered. They'll go somewhere. They may be paid out of our rates, but we will never know because it goes back to this PPP and commercial in confidence and secrecy.
Well, I think if I've got to pay over $300 for the fact there's a pipe running past my house, it's getting ridiculous.
And of course we've got the example just last week of the Tugun desalination plant, which the Victorian government at the moment are saying they won't actually take ownership of because of all the delays, leaking pipes, cracked valves, and corrosion and so on.
Darling, it wasn't the Victorians, who was it?
It was the Queensland government building the desal plant on the Gold Coast at Tugun, a plant being built by Veolia, one of the bidders for the desalination plant here.
Now, the website is, of course, on the screen, and it's up to you. It's okay to have a listen. It's okay for us to have a whinge. These people at Watershed are doing their research. It's all on the website. Check it out and be part of it.
There's one last important point about this PPP business. Their interest will be to run the desalination plant virtually flat out. That's how they'll maximise their profits. But Victorians would really only want this to run, if it has to run, when we need water, when we're in a drought situation. If the dams are overflowing, the interests of Victorian are that this high energy, high cost plant be shut down. But the PPP owners won't want to do that.
They need to make money.
That's
and have
right.
you got some final words for Melbourne, Doug?
Oh yeah, get active, as in get involved with some of the Melbourne groups which are active about this issue. Friends of the Earth, for example, have meetings fortnightly. So they're easy, that's in the city. But also, if you've got a spare bit of time and transport, come down and see this beautiful place.
Viewers, we need you.
That's what it's about. It's about protecting this environment for the future, our kids, the animals and everything. Be active, be involved. Watershed rocks.